Hello, welcome back to our video series on setting up Release Control 6.1. In this video, we are going to set up the integration with ZMF. And the integration is actually made up of several pieces. We have a diagram that shows it. So release control is installed on the Windows side, and then we have ZMF installed on the mainframe. So in order to allow these to communicate with each other, we have to have this connector sitting in the middle. So that's what we're going to do. We're going to install the connector and get the plugin set up on the release control side so that release control can talk with ZMF. And that's what we're going to do next. So to get this to all work, first you do have to do a little bit of setup on the ZMF side itself. And this is covered in Chapter 2 of the ZMF configuration guide. And I'll show you where to get that in a moment. But the first thing that you want to do is set up a proxy user on ZMF. This is basically going to be a system account. You probably already have one set up, but if you don't, you can follow these instructions. And next we have to set up actual user IDs that are going to be doing the tasks and doing the interactions. So if you want to use SSO on the release control side, you would have to set up the same user accounts that are on release control in ZMF. So if you have a user in release control named Betty, then you would have to make the same user in ZMF and then set them up and give them all the privileges. You can also choose not to use the single sign-on feature, and then in that case you would just use the service account that you set up earlier, and that could do all the communication. The disadvantage is that everything on ZMF will appear as if it came from the same person, so you wouldn't have as much granularity and tracking. So that's up to you. And finally, we do have to set up a couple of parameters in the started tasks. There's an example down here. We need to set up a port number that will be used for the TCP/IP communication back and forth. And then we also need to set up this notify URL. And this notify URL is going to point back to the Windows side. So you would just reference your SBM server name and your port information where the connector is installed. We're going to install the connector next, and then this reference actually to the connector. So you can look through the details there in this connector guide, but that's already done on my system, so I'm going to skip past that. All right, we are going to go directly to let me go back over to our diagram. We're going to go to setting up the connector itself. Now, these are a little bit hard to find on our website, so I'm going to just show you where to get it first. So over on our website, if you go to the download area and then you go under ZMF and just go in the latest version. Now in here you will see the connector. So you will need to grab, this is the configuration guide that we're looking at right now that has all the details on what to set up for ZMF. But the most important is to grab the bundle. And if you do not already have Tomcat 8 installed somewhere, you will want to grab that as well. Okay, so I already downloaded those. These are for the connector piece. Now on the release control side, you have to also install the plugin, and the plugin connects release control to the ZMF connector. It's a little confusing, but we just have to take it step by step. So to get the release control plugin, we'll just go under release control and go to the latest version, and we have our list of plugins. If you look down here, you'll see your ZMF plugin. Now I'm going to connect to ZMF 8.1.1, so I'm going to grab this latest copy, which is the 2.0 version. If you're not using ZMF 8 dot something, you will probably want to use the 1.0, but we're going to use the 2.0. And I already downloaded this earlier, so I think we're done over here. Okay, so this is the connector that we downloaded from the ZMF page earlier, and we're going to unzip the bundle. Okay. ZMF bundle is made up of these 4 WAR files, and we have to copy these into Tomcat 8. So again, if you don't have Tomcat 8 installed, you can run the common Tomcat install that was inside of that ZMF download area, but I already have it installed. So I'm going to run over there. Here's my Tomcat 8 folder. We go to the web apps directory, paste in these WAR files, and we just have to give it a moment and Tomcat will recognize them and then expand out their folders. Okay, there's one. Okay, so when the 4 file folders are expanded, you can begin the configuration. The first area that we're going to go is the ALM ZMF ALF, and we'll go under Web INF, Conf, and we need to edit our resource.properties file. So we will just open this with any text editor, and we'll need to modify a couple of fields. We have, the first one is our reference to SBM, and so you just want to place in here whatever the server is where your SBM is installed. So I will put in my server name, and then we want to put in an SBM system account. This is just used for service information to help these communicate back and forth. So this could be any read-only access user. I'm just going to use my admin account because it's already set up, but I do not have a password, so I'm going to take that out. And my SBM version is 11.0.1.1, so I'll change that. And the last one is our reference to release control. So you want to put in here the server where release control is installed. That's probably the same as your SBM box, but it could be different. So just put in your server name there and save this. Now, because we do have a username and password in here, we want to encrypt this file. So to encrypt it, we're going to run this encrypt command. But I've done this before and I know that it won't run right off the bat on my system, so I need to edit that file first. Okay, the first change that I need to make is that this is a typo. It should be 8011. So we need to fix that. And then also Java is not in my existing path. So I need to update that to be the full path to my Java system. And the Java that I'm using for Tomcat 8 is this one. So it's just RE8 bin Java. Any path will work, but that's the one that I'm using. And I'll save this and close it. Now I like to run script files from the command line just because I like to be able to see if there's any error messages that come out of them. So I'm going to go over to the same folder where we are here and then run our command from here in encrypt.cmd. Okay, encryption complete. Okay, so that one worked. And now if you're curious, you can come in and look at the file and you can see that it's been encoded. All right, so we're done in that one. Next, we need to edit and configure the CerNet piece. So we go back to the Web Apps folder and go under CerNet, Web INF, and you will see another resource.properties file, and we'll edit that one in Notepad. Now this top portion is from the older versions of the connector, so you don't have to worry about those in this version. So we'll just skip that piece and go right down towards the bottom. And we're going to put in here our proxy user. So this was the sort of service account that we created on the ZMF side. Mine is called CMN SUP1. And then you put in that person's password. Now again, we are going to encrypt this, so don't worry about typing in your password here. It'll only be in here for a few moments. And you can put in your ZMF version as well. 8.1, that's where I'm going. All right, we'll save this change. And again, we're going to encrypt this. So we have another encrypt script here. But again, I know this one's not going to run on my system, so I'm going to edit it. And we need to change our Sernet file to 811 and then change my path to Java. Okay. All right, so there we go. And that looks good. Okay, so save that. And I'm going to copy this folder now. So I'm back out of my DOS prompt, and I'm going to change over to my Sernet folder now, and we'll encrypt this one. Okay, encryption complete, and we can look at it to verify. Okay, looks good. Everything's encrypted. And that is all of the configuration that we have to do on the first piece. So if we look back over at our diagram, we talked about the ZMF changes that we had to make, and we've already installed and configured the ZMF connector piece. So next, all we have to do is the release control plugin. Okay, so if we come back over here, I already downloaded this, the plugin information. So again, we have another zip file, so we'll just extract that. And this time we're going to open the documentation that comes with the release control side. So there's that one. And when we unzip it, we're going to come out with several files. Now the most important ones for what we're doing are the two jar files. So we're going to copy these files, and we're going to put them inside of our SBM area. So they're going to go under Tomcat 7, Server, Default, Web Apps, and then RLC, Web INF, and Lib. And we're going to paste them in here. All right, so they are in here. These are our two files. And next we are going to configure them. That's all you have to do to install it. Oh, we do need to restart Tomcat, so let's do that. Okay, so here's my SBM Tomcat, and we'll restart that one. All right, now we have that running, so we're done with that piece. So all we have to do next is to configure it. The easiest way to get to the configuration area is to open up the SBM Configurator and drop down to the Release Control tab and then click the link in the middle. This will take us to the Provider Administrator. So to get into the plugin configurator, you need to log in as an administrator. Once you're in, you will see all the plugins that come with release control by default. You'll see we have one for Dimensions, SBM, and SDA, but you'll notice that there isn't one in here for ZMF, so that's what we need to add. So the first thing we'll do is add our reference to our plugin. And we have to put in a name and description and XML. This information is in the plugin guide. On page 7, you'll see the default information that goes in these fields. So we have the name and the description and then the XML. So I'm just going to copy and paste and put that in. Sometimes when you copy and paste, you'll notice that the Add Plugin button is still grayed out, and I don't really know why that happens. We have our developers looking at it, but if you just click into the description field and then back, it will get enabled. So then you can click your Add Plugin, and it will add the ZMF plugin to the bottom. So next we have to set up the configuration, and that's how we actually point to the ZMF box. So we just have to click Add Configuration, and we're going to be using the ZMF provider. And then we can fill in the information here. Now again, the default information is in the plugin guide. This time it's on page 9. So here is the default values, and I'm just going to copy and paste those in to get us started. So after you copy and paste the default information in, you can change it and customize it for your system. I am going to connect to a ZMF 8.1 box, so I'm going to just update this. And the next field that we have to fill in is for the mainframe URL. So this is going to be, this is for the connector. So we're going to put in the server name where we just installed our connector. So this is going to be the Tomcat 8 directory that we have. And my Tomcat 8 is not running on the default 8080, so I'm just going to change it to 8081. That's where my Tomcat is. And next we have our ZMF server, so you can put in your name or IP address. And then is going to be your port number. This is the CMN port number that you defined on the ZMF side earlier. So for me, all right, and then next is the single sign-on option. If you want to use single sign-on, you can change this to be true, and then you can skip the rest of these username and password fields, or you can change it to false. And if you change it to false, you need to put in here a system username and password. And these are just going to be used in order to do all of that communication, and all the communication will happen using this username instead. And if you want to try the single sign-on, all you have to do is make this true, but then you need to make sure that the SBM user login names also exist on the ZMF side, so you'll have to create them over there. I'm just going to use false right now. Okay, so farther down we have two sections. The first section is the execute section. This is for when we're creating tasks. So this is going to let us create jobs and tasks that will be executed on the ZMF side. And you can enter a name and description for this. I will show you where those display in the UI in a minute, and then you can update them if you want to. I'm going to update them a little bit right now. Okay, and then in the deployment unit section, this lets you choose the ZMF products that you can select from on the other side. So this is how you choose your packages and getting all that. So this is the source files that are going to get deployed. So I'm going to just change this again to 8.11. And there are a bunch of filters and other options here. If you're interested in those, I would just go through the guide and read through all of the descriptions, and that will be the easiest way. All right, so that is enough for us. We'll say add. So our configuration should be totally complete now. So let's log into release control and see it in action. So I'm going to log into Work Center. Okay, and I have release control over here, and I have a test package that we can use. So in our release package, we can scroll down and switch over to the deployment unit tab, and this lets us define the source files of what we're going to be deploying. So once we're over here, you can see that I already have some different sources set up, but we're going to add our ZMF source. So we'll say edit. On this screen, we can click the plus, and then we'll see our list of options. Now this one comes from our configuration that we just did. So this is the deployment unit. So if we jump back over here to our configuration, and we're looking at the deployment unit. So that information was the name, and then the hover over was the description. So let me go back over there. So here's the name, and then the description pops up. So you can control that and what that looks like. All right, so when we pick the ZMF option, first we get to filter for our application. I have a sample one in here called Jeff, and I can select it, and then I can pick my package name. My package name is that actually, so I'll just pick that, and I can do find. There's other filters here as well if you need those. And here is the list that it found. Now this is showing the actual title of the package rather than the name. So if you'd like to see more information about it, you can click on the link itself and it will open another tab and ask you for your ZMF information. So this is your ZMF login name. Let me put that in. And then it will bring up this report off of the ZMF side. So now I can see my package name, I can see my request, I can see my audit return values and some basic information about the item. So once you have the right one found, you can just select it and say add, and it will be added to our list. So now we see it here added. And when we close this screen, we will see it attached to our release package. When we scroll down, we'll see it here at the top. So there it is. Okay, so the next thing that we have to do is create some tasks to run against that. So we'll come over here and say task, and just like on the other tab, we say edit to change the list of tasks. And when we click our plus, we're going to get the name and description, this time from the execute section of our plugin. So if we look back over in our plugin, here's the execute session. So here's the name and description in that area. So we have our name and then the pop-ups, the description. So we pick it. And I'm just going to set up a simple audit. We're going to run an audit. And when we select our action, we can see all the different actions that are available using this ZMF plugin. The last one is special. It's the approve prod, and that one does an approval plus also do the baseline and install to production. So that's why that one has a little bit different name. And we're going to choose audit. And again, we can filter through our list of applications and select our applications. You can give it a comment. Okay, and then down here we get to select which environments are going to need this audit run. So we're going to run it always. If you, for example, did not want to do this task for the dev environment, you would just uncheck it. But we're going to do it for all the environments, and we'll say save. Okay, and now we have audit in our list of tasks. You'll notice that they are red, and that's because we still need to link our deployment unit to this task. So we need to link the source reference with the task itself. So if we click on the little link icon, it will give us our list of ZMF units, and then we can pick it and we can say save. And again, we have this link that will open up that report again on the ZMF side. But we'll pick it and say save. And now you'll see that it turned black, so everything is okay. And we'll just click close. And now when we look on our deployment task tab, we can see our audit option. So that is it. It's all set up and configured. I hope that's helpful and gets you started. Thank you.